and welcome to this very special episode of our Hybrid Working Flying Frog podcast. This episode's special because, well, apart from the fact it's just Graham and I, we're actually just going to be looking at location models. There's been a lot of conversation about everyone saying, I'm hybrid working, or we've adopted hybrid working. But actually, when you get a little bit deeper into this, there's more to hybrid working than just this generic term. So what we've done is we've decided just to have a conversation really to share with you around what is hybrid working all about and what are some of the options that you might have going forward. And why it's particularly important is that everyone really started hybrid working at the beginning of lockdown. So we went into this new way of working in a firefighting mode. It's time now to come out of firefighting and know that we're planning for the longer term. So really, today is about thinking about all of the options available. Believe you me, there are a lot of options. At the end of this session, we'll also update you on some nice, good news that we've got, some big news that we've got going on. So as they say in good old movie world, stay tuned. Right, so we've had a little bit of background. I'm going to pass over to Graham now. And Graham, can you just give us a heads up on what are all those different options we've been talking about?
Okay, so on the one hand, when we've been reading the news over the last 3 to 6 months particularly, and organisations have been coming out of lockdown and deciding what their hybrid working model is, what we've tended to see is quite a polarised view. So we've tended to see we want all our employees to go back to the office, or we're going to allow all our employees to work from home, or something in the middle. And that, on the face of it, seems like all the location options, but actually it is both more complicated than that. But when you unpack it, is sort of simple. Anyway, so
complicated and simple in the same place.
It's complicated and simple at the same time. So it is, yes, it's a bit of an oxymoron, both complex and simple at the same time. So we start breaking it down into the component parts that when you mix them up can give you the more complicated options. So an organisation can have a main site, as many have done in the past. They also may have no main site at all. So everybody works somewhere other than on their main site.
So main site can be like the head office, or it could be a main contact centre site.
Absolutely.
That singular main site, really. Sometimes two main sites even.
Yeah.
Or more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Reasonably rare to find an organisation, even these days, that has no main site at all, but that is still an option. You can be completely virtual. Now, then you have team members working from home. Now, they might be working from home locally to a site, or they might be working from home at a distance from the site. So,
okay, so if I'm working from home locally, I can pop in virtually or pop home at my lunch break.
Absolutely.
But if I'm working at a distance, it's not really commutable. I'm at a distance where I'm not round the corner and I'm not a local person. I would have to arrange to come in more. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely, yes. And I think, again, that's the one that I think has been less common, but is now emerging because people have proven they don't have to be at a local distance to be able to work from home. They can be at a greater distance, although it brings with it different challenges, which we can come back to later. So yes, that's the difference between a local and a distant. Then what you can also have is satellite offices. So often referred to as kind of a hub and spoke. So main office with satellites, and then working from home, it could be close to a satellite or it could be close to the main office. So that's where you're starting to get a mixture of different options.
Right. So you've got main office, no main office, satellite, working from home local, and working from home distant.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
I can see this is getting complicated, but more than that, I can see that all of those different models would have different implications operationally in terms of what it means around my tech, my people, my performance, etc. Yeah.
Those altogether give us 12 different models or options, depending on the flavour that you kind of throw into the mix. But if you take, for example, one of the themes that's coming out about having people working from home either at a distance or with no office to go into, because there isn't an office, is that creates issues with certainly onboarding, training, development, collaboration, and to a degree, for those people who need it, some happiness and well-being. If an employee needs that kind of one-to-one experience with people at a certain level, yeah. So a satellite, for example, can give that if you have people work, if your staff are working from home distant and cannot get into the main site, assuming you have a main site. So you can create a satellite, and that can be something as simple as a rent. It doesn't have to be a kind of main operation. It can be a service office or a service business lounge where there is once a week or twice a week. This is our collaboration day. We go into the service office, so there's no overhead as such. It's just an operating expenditure once a week.
And there's even the model there, which is kind of the outsourced hotel model for contact centers, where I just rent the space, the contact center set up, and my people could go in on a frequent or infrequent basis to work. But to bring them into that hub where they feel part of something rather than in isolation at home.
Yeah, and the contact center versus non-contact center, I think does create another kind of interesting dynamic to it, because it's certainly for me, it's easier to imagine a group of non-contact center employees going to meet in an office, take their laptops or log in, on machines that are already there, do their meetings, etc. And I can see that kind of collaborative working, collaborative space. A slightly different thing for the contact center. If there are groups who are coming together specifically for training or collaboration, great. But I think what you were alluding to there, Natalie, was what if you wanted a group of contact center staff to come in and do their regular contact center work from a satellite operation or a satellite base once a week?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you could have real flexibility. Managing it, though, would put a real potential strain on your leadership teams and your team managers, because they're having to, it's martini management, isn't it? It's manage any time, any place, anywhere. But definitely they're not coming in locally if they're in a satellite. If I'm in the north and suddenly my satellite is down in the southeast or something. In fact, I was speaking to someone the other day, and it's interesting where the energy companies have demised very quickly in recent weeks. People have been going in and picking up teams of people from the energy companies and employing them. So I know of one organisation that's now got 2 teams based up in Scotland, whereas they are in another part of the country, something that even a month ago they hadn't envisaged. But now, because the opportunity is there, they're growing to scale really fast. They've been able to really take advantage of this hybrid working model and say, right, we're going to have these teams, we're going to make it work, and just literally lift and shift across into another office, which is a rented office again.
Yeah, and I think it's a fantastic example. But and if you've got it's a different dynamic if you're taking a team that suddenly becomes available through that type of a sad occurrence where the business goes under. But if you've got a group who are working from home, local, next to an office or a satellite, for example, that's one thing. But you can equally pick up. Doesn't matter if an organisation's staff contact centre suddenly becomes available and they are a mixture of all those, working from home distant, from home local. Doesn't matter. I can still attract them in. It then becomes another question of how do I deal with training, recruitment, onboarding, cultural drift, all those kinds
of things. It's the whole cultural piece, isn't it, that sits around that. How do you create the glue that makes those people want to be part of your organisation, and not just be part, but actually love your organisation, so that they can become honest, trustworthy employees with everything else that's going on around in our world at the moment. These are really critical things to create that culture, so that we haven't got people just virtually just freelancing for us. They're actually part of our organisation. They understand our brand, they understand our DNA, and they can communicate that with our customers, because that's where the moment of truth really hits, isn't it? When the rubber hits the road, when they speak to a customer, and are they actually part of your brand, or could they be from any organisation?
And you know what? I think that culture and cultural drift is going to become one of, if not the biggest challenges because other things are kind of resolvable through logistics, I think.
Yeah.
You can bring people together as a group to train them. You can bring them together to collaborate once a week or once or whatever. But if the permanent status is mainly working from home, whether it's local or distant,
yeah,
cultural drift is going to be the biggest challenge by a long way.
Yeah. They say the current statistic on that is that 38% of leaders are saying that building a contact center culture for hybrid working is their number one priority. It's how do they get the culture embedded? And that's a whole different topic. That's not what we're here to discuss today. And maybe we should pick that up in a different podcast. But right now, what we're talking about are these 12 different models that have 12 different sets of operational implications and 12 different sets of people implications, and undoubtedly 12 different sets of cost implications. Because hybrid working isn't a free ride, a cheap answer, really, in reality either.
And what do you think, Natalie, about, does an organisation need to settle on one? Could they adopt several? Is it as simple a choice as that, or is it a case of work with what they've got and see, as we have heard from some of our other guests on the podcast, work with what they've got and see what comes out?
I think that was okay during the whole COVID time, and the same way as COVID excuse has run weak with customers now. Customers have had enough of it. What I'm picking up very much is employees have had enough as well. They want to know what the future is about for them. They want stability, they want security, and they want to get back in the saddle of the organization that they love to work for, right? They want to get back into that driving seat. So the longer that you just kind of make do and say, that's it, we're just going to see how things go, the further down the insecurity line people are moving. And that's not healthy. There was a global stat out even a couple of weeks ago that said 40% of people working in contact centers across the globe are looking to move, right?
Yeah.
Because they know 40%, they know they can go and get more money, they can change, they don't have to put up with bad stuff anymore. They can go to an organization that's going to look after them and give them the right working environment, the right flexibility, and the right pay for the job they're doing. And without sounding cliche, I think we're now currently moving from a world of volume in terms of contact centers to a world of value. And value is what our employees are all about. And the value is also where we need to get it, to get hybrid working smart for us in our organizations. You know, it's the era of the super agent, right? That's what we're about to have. Fantastic. Bring it on, I say.
Can I quote you on that? Natalie calls it the era of the super agent. I like it.
Got it. Thank you. So what we've got today, just to bring this together, is we've got 12 different models. And I'm sure people watching this, someone's going to say, but I'm doing it this way. And some people are going to do different models onshore and offshore. But fundamentally now, 12 different models for hybrid working. Okay, I'm just pausing at that thought. So the key thing for an organization is to understand what really works for them, what really is underneath what they're doing currently, and transition into a more stable world for the future of their organization, their employees, and their customer groups, okay? So on that note, I'm really delighted to say that at the end of November, we are holding the hybrid working big debate. It's going to be a roundtable forum with lots of very interesting people at that table at a fairly senior level within our sector, discussing hybrid working, especially in light of the recent declarations from the Health and Safety Executive, from ACAS, and from the FCA, who only in the last week have produced 21 different ways in which you need to be battening down when it comes to hybrid working, from regulatory stuff to culture to training to some big issues. So we're going to be picking up those big issues in the big debate at the end of November. If you'd like to be included in the debate, can you drop either Graham or I a quick note, message us, find us on LinkedIn, send us a message, whatever's quick for you. But thank you for joining us today. It's been an interesting session, and we will be in touch soon. That's all today from Flying Frog. Thank you.
Thank you.